Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video we'll be answering the question, how can a dash replace a semicolon, colon or ellipsis? So a dash can replace those punctuation marks, but under only certain conditions for it to be grammatically accurate. Let's kick off with the semicolon. So its function is to show the link between two clauses that it's embedded within. So let's see how that operates first before we consider how a dash functions. For example, children enjoy opening presents, semicolon. Children love Christmas. That is grammatically accurate. But if I wanted to replace the semicolon with a dash to show more excitement, I could change it as follows. Children enjoy opening presents, dash, they love Christmas. There's two functions to the dash here. It's adding a dramatic pause potentially, but it's also linking the children that we heard first in the first part of that sentence with the idea that it's those children that love Christmas. We don't need to repeat the word children here because I'm not assuming these are totally independent clauses as we would expect it in a semicolon. Next up is the colon. So as you already know, with a colon we're adding additional information that could be seen as dramatic or formal. But when we're adding a dash, we're making it more informal. So let's start off with the more formal colon version. They cried. Their eyes looked as though they had been dampened by the oceans. Now what's important is I get clarification from what follows after the colon. Now when we consider what the difference is when we use a dash, it seems much more dramatic. They cried, dash. Their eyes looked as though they had been dampened by the oceans. Now in this particular instance, we don't have to change the exact wording for a dash to make sense. Instead, it's about the level of formality we want to convey. If we're trying to be rather formal, I would argue that the colon is still the best friend of formal writing. But if we want high drama and intense passion in our writing, then actually the dash is ideal. Finally, ellipsis. So its function is to show interruption, not just simply a pause, but also to show that words are missing. So let's take, for example, Lord Kitchener's famous speech. But I've taken out some key words. So it says, ask not what your country, ellipsis, can do for your country. That doesn't really make sense on its own. It's a famous speech though, so I might want to instead write the whole thing out and its particular line that I'm referencing might insert a dash just to heighten the power of his rhetoric. And the line that is being shared is incredibly famous. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Now here the dash is breaking up both parts of the clauses and actually it's accentuating the pause in how it would be spoken, which is important for us, especially if we're reading a written source and not really understanding the power of the speech as it was performed. Now it's your turn. For each of the three sentences, consider if the use of the punctuation is correct or if it needs improvement or would be better off with a different type of punctuation between the clauses. Hit pause if you need thinking time. So how did you get on? She stared at the door. Where was he? Now that's a dramatic pause where the dash is used. So this is correct. Life is what happens, dash, making plans. Now we know that is incorrect. From what we can see, this is a quotation. And actually, the ellipsis punctuation mark would be better here. Life is what happens when ... making plans. Actually, the full quotation is life is what happens when you're too busy making plans. But the ellipsis there shortens it, makes it a little bit easier to write quickly. And finally, Laura listened closely to the song. She loved that melody. Now this is correct, but I could have also used a dash to heighten her love for that melody. The reason that was correct originally is because we've got a semicolon breaking up two independent clauses, but the dash here heightens the power of what is being said about how intently she was listening. Now, whether you choose to use a dash to create a pause, to create tension, to elongate what's being said, it's often associated with drama and informality. Whereas the colon and semicolon are seen as traditional forms, ellipsis is a really great time-saving device. And so we shouldn't necessarily assume that it can be compared to a dash. That would be incorrect, as we saw with number 2. Best of luck, and remember that using any of these forms of punctuation correctly is a really great way of signalling you are an authority and a learned member when it comes to a professional writer of any kind. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?